Welcome to each of you this morning, wherever you might be in the world, wherever you might be in your heart, wherever you might be in your head. Leaning into compassion, reason, and respect empowers us to be inclusive, especially to those who are sometimes left on the outside. A tough place to experience beloved community. The first step to promoting justice is to practice inclusivity, to respect and honor the worth and dignity of everyone among us. As you use, that often means we live and reside in ambiguity. It often means living in tension. I'm Reverend Nick Filzen, and I'm pleased today to be shaping that which has worth with worship host Cheryl Martin and music director David Netches. Obviously, we are only meeting virtually today, which isn't possible without the efforts of the folks on our tech team, Dee Medley, Stephen Heil, and Dan Cooper. Thank you to each of you. Though we are virtual, if you're visiting for the first time, you're of course welcome along with everyone else. Please consider joining us here in our beautiful sanctuary when we can safely return to hybrid worship. You can also stick around for a few minutes after the service today for some Zoom fellowship time if you feel comfortable doing so. I'd like to share a few community highlights with you this morning. Today, there's a virtual social justice team meeting at 12:20 after the service. The link can be found in the most recent e-announcement and in the primary event for our group on Realm, which is available to everyone. But to make it super easy for you, Dee is about to put this link to join the meeting in the chat, so you can access that and copy it for later. Please consider joining us as we build our internal coalition of justice seekers to promote justice more fully in the world. Our mid-year congregational meeting will be after worship next Sunday, January 30th at 12:30 p.m. It will be virtual only. Advanced registration is required, and registrations will be accepted until 9 p.m. on Saturday, January 29th, next Saturday. The registration link can be found in several places from Alan on Realm, including in the Community Voices group, in your inbox, and in the event that Alan created for the meeting. Sadly, it seems the link that was sent out in the e-announcements the last few weeks isn't working, and we apologize for that confusion. We hope to resolve it in the upcoming Thursday email. But between now and then, please use the link in Realm, if you can find it, to register for your chance to have your voice heard and vote count. With the rapid community spread of COVID-19 in our region and hospital ICUs actually being beyond capacity right now as of yesterday, which is very scary, we will be fully virtual through Sunday, February 6th. The reopening team and I will continue to update you as we look at available data. And I am thinking of folks who are suffering with that and the folks who can't get care right now without access to hospitals. Because of this policy, the first meeting of Soul Circles, our new small group ministry program, which also kind of doubles as an adult faith formation, adult faith development program, will now be on February 24th instead of this month. Stay tuned for more information. For now, we will still be holding an auction and talent show on Saturday, February 26th, opening night on Broadway. If that changes, we'll let you know. This will be a time to come together and enrich each other's lives, both with donations, be they services, items, time, or money, as well as the talent within our church, for which there's no shortage. If you would like to participate in bringing this event to life, please contact Ray Randolph in person or on Realm. Now, may we fully enter our time of worship, a time when each of our uniqueness, each of our individuality, each of our beauty shapes that which has worth, ourselves, as individuals, as a community.
Good morning. Today's chalice reading will come from Robin F. Gray and is entitled Sacred. We join our voices in a holy communion of mind and heart, dedicated to the promises that bind us in compassion, one with another. In this hour, we light the flame that signals our intention to find the sacred in every living thing.
I hope you'll join us in singing, keep playing. I hope you'll join us in singing the first hymn, To See the World, number 398, if you have a hymnal at home. We'll sing it through twice with a short interlude between by David. To see the world in a grain of sand, and a heaven in a wild flower, hold infinity in the palm of your hand, and eternity in an hour. To see the world in a grain of sand, and a heaven in a wild flower, hold infinity in the palm of your hand, and eternity in an hour. Spirit of life and love, Spirit of sometimes grief, that interdependent web of existence which is not always beautiful, is not always comfortable. And in those moments when we aren't feeling at one with, in harmony with the world around us, those are moments that, although can be terrible, although can be more than grief-worthy, there are also moments in which we can connect more fully with one another, knowing that this life isn't always easy, that it's finite, can be so connecting. Some moments right now that I know are on my heart that I'm guessing are being felt by other folks in this community. Of course, there's more than enough grief to go around in this historical moment with COVID impacting us in many ways, big or small, not the least of which, of course, is the nearing 1 million deaths just here in the United States. And the disconnect that we feel physically not being able to join together here in this sanctuary and only meeting virtually. Thank goodness for our continued ability to connect at least somewhat over the internet. I'm also keeping a close eye on the potential military crisis at the Ukraine border. We haven't seen this kind of aggression from another world superpower for quite a while, and it's scary. There's so much uncertainty to go around right now, especially with the dismantling of voting rights and the inability and refusal to protect those rights at the federal level. The good news is we have each other. We can continue to do good work, to go out into the world and promote the values that we hold dear, and to build a beloved community within, among, and beyond. Blessed be, and amen.
By now, many of you know that I am a person living with mental illness, specifically major depression and generalized anxiety disorder. I'm what some may consider to be on the higher functioning end of that particular continuum, although I'm not entirely sure how or if that fits in with neurodiversity. I've graduated from college, worked in paid and volunteer positions, served in various capacities here at UCA, including being a past board member and current worship team member, and so on. Despite whatever discomfort I feel about public speaking, discomfort as in thinking, what circle of hell does this feel like? I do so with the intention of challenging the stigma and stereotypes concerning those of us living with mental illness. But there's a flip side, and this plays a major part in my own living intention. Especially in the last few years, I've been grappling with some rather challenging situations, feeling overwhelmed and facing layers of long repressed emotions. Don't even get me started on this pandemic that doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon. The stress of dealing with that has fueled levels of anxiety and depression that can be downright debilitating. And it takes all I can do to summon the energy and the motivation to simply get out of bed and face the day, much less aspire to live with intention. That's it, in a nutshell. Of course, there's much more to it, more than I have time to get into right now, so I'll leave it there for now. That being said, we are now at the time in this service where we make contributions to help sustain this beloved community and keep it going as we continue to live in tension with these, to put it mildly, rather interesting times. The information on making a donation, which now includes the option of donating via text, will appear on the monitor shortly. Thank you.
Thank you for your generosity. This month has been all about living with intention, which we've already explored in many ways. Mostly with the intent that living with intention is good. Something to which we should aspire because of its many individual and relational benefits. That could potentially leave out a significant group of people who are neurodivergent or have a mental disorder of some kind, which impedes intentional function. By glorifying intentionality, Am I unintentionally taking agency, worth, and dignity away from folks who identify as neurodivergent, who are disabled in some way? Am I guilty of ableism? Today, as we continue to explore intentionality, I'm going to be living in tension, an uncomfortable and an ambiguous place where, as you use, we should be spending a lot of time. I used the word neurodivergent a moment ago, which may be new to some. What do neurodivergent and neurodiversity mean? Well, a 2012 article on the New Atlantis by Aaron Rothstein entitled Mental Disorder or Neurodiversity says, quote, "The term neurodivergent encompasses those with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, autism, schizophrenia, depression, dyslexia, and other disorders affecting the mind and brain," end quote. And the National Symposium for Neurodiversity at Syracuse University says, quote, "Neurodiversity is a concept and social movement that advocates for viewing mind and brain disorders as a variation of human wiring rather than a disease. As such, neurodiversity activists reject the idea that these disorders should be cured, advocating instead for celebrating neurodiverse forms of communication and self-expression, and for promoting support systems that allow neurodiverse people to live as neurodiverse people," end quote. In short, neurodiversity is a movement that seeks full inclusion for people who are neurodivergent. Two weeks ago, I did not offer full inclusion when I shared a spiritual practice that works well for me, intentional walking. Though I offered the finger labyrinth as a physical alternative, I still might have left some folks out. And if you felt excluded, I'm very, very sorry. For somebody with autism, the practice of intentional walking may be difficult or impossible. It may even be a horrifying experience, depending on where you're walking. For example, the following is a simulation of what it's like for a child with autism to walk through a mall. For some, this experience may be easy, and for others, extremely difficult. As a content warning, the video itself may be difficult for some people here today, especially if you're autistic or experience seizures, because there's some flashing lights. So please take care of yourself accordingly if you may be impacted by sensory overload.
Six, 7, 8, 9.
Take my hand.
I'm not naughty. I'm autistic. And I just get too much information.
Just like any other constructed category of people, there is no one way to be neurodivergent. People who are neurodivergent are incredibly diverse. And even within one clinically diagnosable condition, there is no one way that that condition presents itself on the outside or inside. A person's unique experience is always going to be just that, unique. And any broad generalization that is problematic at best and truly harmful at worst. There is no monolithic neurodivergent person. Neurodivergence is also often invisible. There are probably tons of people you know that are neurodiverse, and you would never guess it. I have suffered with depression throughout my entire life. I'm not currently afflicted by it because I'm fortunate to have access to good therapeutic and pharmaceutical care. Not everyone has access to those privileges, which should be rights. I'm not disclosing that information today for pity or to be helped by any of you. In fact, I really don't want either. I say it because I want to normalize it. When I've been deep in depression, it's nearly impossible to be intentional. Intentionality requires some motivation, and depression and motivation often don't really coexist. Living with intention is still good, but context is important. Though I have experienced that difficulty, I would hate for anybody to take my agency away from me. To think I'm worth less because I might be able to wake up, but it's pretty hard to get out of bed. Even when my function is interrupted by low levels of serotonin and other happy brain chemicals, I'm still worthy. I still have dignity. I still deserve power over my life. Beethoven suffered from depression and a degenerative physical disability as he lost his hearing. He once said, quote, "With joy I hasten towards death. If it comes before I shall have had an opportunity to show all my artistic capacities, it will still come too early for me despite my hard fate, and I shall probably wish it had come later, but even then I am satisfied, will it not free me from my state of endless suffering," end quote. I don't imagine anyone would take Beethoven's agency away from him because of his depression. One way to avoid pilfering power from people who are neurodivergent is to think about other important ways in which folks like Beethoven contribute amazing things to our world in the arts, sciences, kindness, unique understanding of justice issues, comedy, even sports. Folks like Carl Sagan, Dan Aykroyd, Vincent van Gogh, Carrie Fisher, Alvin Ailey, and Winston Churchill, all of whom saw the world in a grain of sand and heaven in a wildflower. And in Carl Sagan's case, was able to hold infinity in his hand. All were neurodivergent in various ways, and all made huge contributions to life together on this planet. And it doesn't have to be huge, groundbreaking accomplishments from exceptional neurodivergent people that determines the value of others. Taking a cue from Tim's reflection last week, our lives shouldn't be measured against the lives of others, even if we share some intersectional identities. Everyday life is made rich by neurodivergent presence and contributions too. There's a wonderful blog post from ongig.com that offers a collection of observations from experts in their fields about the benefits of neurodiverse people in the workplace. Quote, for example, people who with dyspraxia, ADHD, and autism spectrum condition may have increased persistence when working through a challenging task, or incredible energy when other employers have grown weary, or perhaps an incredible long-term memory, end quote. And from Robert D. Austin and Gary P. Paisano of Harvard Business Review, quote, many people with neurodiversity disorders have higher than average abilities. Research shows that some conditions, including autism and dyslexia, can bestow special skills in pattern recognition, memory, or mathematics. Yet those affected often struggle to fit the profiles sought by prospective employers, end quote. Finally, quote, when 99 neurologically identical people fail to solve a problem, it's often the 1% fellow who's different who holds the key, end quote. Even while normalizing neurodivergence, it is still easy to fall into the trap of tokenizing or profiting even from the representation of neurodivergence, of appropriating agency. This happens a lot in media. When writers sensationalize folks, say on the autism spectrum, as somewhat of a kind of a magical character with out of this world abilities, usually involving numbers or patterns or math, somehow ripping away the humanity from them, making them objects. Janaea and I recently binged the show Community. I don't know if any of you have ever seen it. Okay, I'm going to correct myself. We didn't binge, we re-binged. We've watched it several times now. It's a really good and family favorite. Community always did a wonderful job of poking holes in overused film and TV tropes. Abed is a beloved main character who is likely on the spectrum and the autism spectrum, and often drives the important story development while naming the overt cliche about which they're poking fun. At one point in season 5, the characters are trying to solve a ridiculous and over-the-top satirical mystery. I won't tell you what it was, it's a little inappropriate. The dean, another character, says, Abed, you're special. Can't you just stand at the scene of the crime and see what happened? Somehow melodramatic and deadpan all at once and full of sarcasm, Abed replies, yeah, I see a man using a social disorder as a procedural device. Wait. I see another man. Mildly autistic super detectives everywhere. Basic cable, broadcast networks. Painful writing. It hurts. His facial expression changes. He turns and walks out of the room. I turned to Janaea and said, that'll preach. Though some disorders shouldn't be considered something to cure, but rather an important aspect of who somebody is, some neurodivergence requires treatment. For example, if you're experiencing pain and heartache because of the wild behavioral swings of something like bipolar disorder, a close cousin to depression, please get the care you need to prevent harm to yourself and others. With the risk of adding more tension, neurodivergence doesn't excuse destructive behavior. Behavior still requires accountability. To prevent that from happening or make amends if something bad has happened, allow others to care for you. Receiving care from your community is not losing your agency. We all rely on our people all the time. Neurodivergent folks in the workforce also may need intentional accommodations by their employers and colleagues. This too is okay for the whole and holy practice of inclusivity. This further adds tension today, as does the question of whether mental disorder or neurodiversity is the right language to use. Returning to the Rothstein article from earlier, he says, quote, many parents of affected children focus on the difficulties and suffering brought on by these conditions. They warn of the dangers of normalizing mental disorders, potentially creating reluctance among parents to provide treatments children. Disagreements then abound. What does it mean to see and experience the world in a different way? What does it mean to be a normal human being? What does it mean to be abnormal, disordered, or sick? And what exactly would a cure for these disorders look like? The answers to these questions may be as difficult to know as the minds of others. End quote. Difficult questions with impossible answers that change on context, that change with each person's individual brain chemistry, bodies. This all adds tension to our everyday living, ambiguity. And living in tension often generates unintentional mistakes. Mistakes that might further discount or hurt somebody else who already lives on the margins. If you make a mistake that hurts somebody, first, stop doing the hurtful thing, then apologize and amend, make it right. And even though living in tension is hard, please don't make it about yourself. Center the person you harmed. The experience of being centered can be very empowering itself. And if you're neurodivergent in any way, I close this service by centering you. I see you and I hear you. You are welcome exactly as you are at any given moment. Your worth can never be overstated. This community is made more whole and holy because of you. Thank you for the blessing of your contributions, and thank you for the blessing of your presence. As we pull up the lyrics for the final hymn, number 359, When We Are Gathered, I invite you to sing from home with beauty or cacophony, whatever you please. Your voice is beautiful. David and I will lead here. When we are gathered for a time of worship and of song, let none forget the joys and griefs that mark each path of life, and thus we reach for those who love. We reach for those who love. For youth shall pass and time is wise, and countless seasons turn. So day by day our years increase, until at last by life released our spirits shine like stars. Our spirits shine like stars. To love is risky. To love is to live in tension. To love is bold. May you be loved into wholeness. May you be loved for who you are and who you will be. And may you be bold.